guest, Ryan Gerchman from Concerned Veterans for America. And, of course, wouldn't be here without my co-star, Lieutenant Colonel George, our man, Fleck.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Don't get carried away too much. We only just begun, you know. But Ryan, I'll tell you what, Ryan Gerchman's here. He's from Concerned Veterans for America. And Ryan, you're still the Community Engagement Director?
I am,
for
yes,
Concerned
sir.
Veterans for America, Northern Nevada, okay? Yes. Now, your organization has expanded. You're not in every state, but you're in several other states, if not a dozen or 13 or 14. How large is this organization that you're part of?
So, yeah, Concerned Veterans for America is part of a larger conglomerate of nonprofits that advocate on policy. Concerned Veterans for America is currently in 11 states. Starting on July 5th, we'll be in 12 states. We're moving into Pennsylvania and also looking to hire someone in Georgia as well. So we are nationwide. Now, something that we're undergoing is more of a zone aspect instead of being...
What does that mean, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked, because a zone, we have our like northwest zone, right? So I've been going to Susanville. Susanville is a great little rural California town, thinks a lot differently than the southern part of California. So we really align with their values and the principles and the individuals that are within that area. So because I am in Nevada, but Susanville is a hop and a skip up the road for me, then I'm able to reach out to individuals within Susanville. So it's really exciting, and we're in a really exciting changing time within Concerned Veterans for America to expand our capabilities, to expand our vision and our message, not just within Nevada, not just say within Arizona or Pennsylvania or any. If we can get to the place and it makes sense to go there and talk with folk, we're a nationwide organization, so we're leaning more into that zone model, which makes us more capable in sharing what it is that we do.
Well, don't forget the sprawling metropolis of Herlong.
Oh, Herlong, yes. Herlong's amazing.
When you say that for each state, you're breaking it into segments in terms of like northwest, northeast, southeast, southwest, is that what you mean? Like, will there be an assigned individual to represent that particular area?
So yeah, I'm glad you asked that, because it's interesting, right? So my boss was the state strategic director for Nevada for Concerned Veterans for America. He is now the zone director, and a bunch of me's, right, report to him. So a bunch of grassroots engagement directors there's Arizona, GED, grassroots engagement director. Then there's Las Vegas, grassroots engagement director. Myself, GED. We have and two in Montana. Now, instead of us being restricted to our states, right? If my buddy in Arizona wants to come up and help us in Las Vegas, or Las Vegas wants to go down into Arizona, right? We communicate and we say, hey, we got this stuff going on. Let's work together to get this done. So there is someone over top of these areas, and it's not the same. So right now there's only two zones. There's the Western zone, right, which is the group that I just talked about. And then there's also like the North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia kind of zone.
You're not so much up in the Northeast yet, are you?
Northeast, no, not so much. Okay. Well, I mean, Pennsylvania.
You mean on the East Coast? You're talking about New England and upstate, the Atlantic states. But actually, if we could kind of roll back for a second, Ryan, because we understand who you are, but
I love this. This is fun.
But sometimes
that's a pucker factor.
Our audience doesn't quite understand. You have some top initiatives, but kind of explain what Concerned Veterans for America is all about and why you're doing it and how you do it.
Yeah, what's your mission statement, boss?
Yeah, I tend to get ahead of myself sometimes.
It's all right.
Hey, sometimes we get behind ourselves, so don't worry about that.
That's right. We do that a lot.
So we are Veterans for America, right? We distinguish ourselves from different veteran service organizations, VSOs, because, for instance, Ricky, George, when you signed that dotted line, it wasn't just to defend your fellow veteran. It was to defend the Constitution of America, right? So we are for all Americans.
And serve the country.
And serve our country, yes. So we are serving our country in a different way that focuses, yes, on veteran issues sometimes, but all American issues as well. And so our mission is to elevate the veteran perspective and bring our unique ideas, our unique lived experience to the issues that are facing us and advocate for positive change that is going to benefit not just veterans, but all Americans.
Well, Ryan, looking at your website and the notes I have from our previous gatherings, there's a lot of initiatives that you're working. You gave us 3 primary, but you know what? I'll tell you this. You stay with Concerned Veterans for America another 2 or 3 years, and maybe just like your former CEO, the Secretary of Defense, Pete Head, said, maybe you can, a lot of upward mobility in this organization.
You know, that's
you could be the Undersecretary of the Department of Defense.
That's great. I love your guys' confidence in my abilities. Thank you for that.
Well, you're a good man.
Rocking. So are you guys. So the thing that I love about Concerned Veterans for America is that we are a principle values-based organization, right? One of our values and principles is like what each individual brings to the table, our comparative advantage, right? So you're better at some things than I am. I'm sure you're better at a lot of things. Both
I
of you
don't
guys.
get carried away.
But so like
no extra money for that, by the way.
Oh man, I was hoping for another snack, but we'll see. That's anyway. So what we do is we leverage our individual talents, right? And if a person isn't in the right role necessarily, and they see opportunity to grow the organization, to grow our capability, then we can oftentimes move into a position that suits our unique talents and the needs of the organization better. Yeah. So that's just, and so I kind of went off on a tangent there, but to bring it back to Concerned Veterans for America's initiatives, right? And talking about the things that we do to help all Americans. Well, it's a monumental day, right? Because, I don't know, something kind of big happened. Bless you. Something kind of big happened within Congress today.
Oh, you noticed the big, beautiful
amazing.
bill got passed?
Yes, sir.
Even with a 9-hour filibuster, it still was passed.
It did. That is something that we have been working towards. And initially it was the TCJA, right? The Tax Cuts Jobs Act. And then that got bundled into this, I like to pronounce my acronym, so the ABBA, I say. Right?
Well, you know, Ricky and I talk about that all the time. When we're talking to an audience, people listening are veterans, there's active Guard, Reserve, and there's civilian people listening for the first time. The acronyms can throw people off. So we take great care to make sure the audience understands where we're going with our conversations.
100%. So when I say ABBA, I'm talking about the One Big Beautiful Bill Act.
You're not talking about that group.
ABBA. I like them too.
All right.
They're a little more fun. You can get down to, you know, but the ABBA I'm down with, right? Because
now, Ryan, I saw something here, and I think you're hitting on it. You help shape a better American future.
Yes,
and in the course of an hour plus that we have probably or so, can you expound on that? I see some of your initiatives. Ricky's going to get into it, but you're not just national. Your initiatives, it go beyond the borders and boundaries of America. It goes international as well. And could you go into explaining this whole strong national defense with a prudent foreign policy? Could you elaborate on that a little bit more?
I would love to. We've been embroiled in a forever war for the last 20 plus years. We've actually been in the Middle East since, the 1950s, right? That was the first time that we did something significant over there. And here we are in 2025, 75 years later, and nothing has changed for the benefit, honestly, of the individuals over there, nor for America. I would say America is worse off than we were at the beginning of this because of all the trillions with a T of dollars that we have spent.
I might have a little bit of dispute with that because if you look at the independence in September of 1948, a new country was established. It went from the Palatinate and called Palestine to the new country of Israel, which gave because of the Balfour Act of 1918, which designated the Jewish homeland
Okay.
And it gave them, for the displaced diaspora of the Jewish people, a place they could call home again. And that exists today. And it exists because of their integrity and their veracity and their ability to survive and our help. And that has made a huge difference in the Middle East. And that's been one of the major contentions, is because, you know, the Jewish people were displaced by the Romans in 76 AD and haven't been back since 1948. Wow. So you got 2,000 years where they've been exiled, diaspora all over the world. Now they've got their homeland back, you know, but you realize that there's still a lot of Christians in the Middle East, but they're being displaced as well. So we have to look at the reality of where we are today. And like you said, things haven't changed in 75 years. I kind of dispute that. Now, maybe not everything's changed for the better, and I would agree with that part.
Okay.
Because I think that we have spent trillions of dollars that have not necessarily been well spent or have been grossly misappropriated in wrong areas. And I think we could probably get into a whole lot of nuts and bolts with that. But regardless, when you say we're doing something, yeah, I think that you're right. America doesn't need to be nation building in the Middle East or anywhere for that matter, as far as I'm concerned. But as long as we give the world our perceptions of what we feel makes humanity better.
Yes, sir.
You know, there's, like they say, there's only two organizations in the world that's ever saved humanity, and that's Jesus Christ and the American GI. That's a fact.
Yeah.
I'm glad you point that out, because like in 1948, and you know way more history than I do. So in 1948, that was a strategic decision for us to supply. I'm imagining, right? A strategic decision.
Truman actually was the first president of the United States, as well as the first national leader to recognize the state of Israel within hours of its independence.
That's huge. And Israel is an ally of ours, right? And Iraq, Afghanistan, the other Middle Eastern countries, right, aren't necessarily on board with what America is trying to accomplish.
But, you know, I was going to ask you, Concerned Veterans for America, how do you think they would respond? In the past, they've been a little critical at times. They don't just march along in agreement.
We do not.
You vocalized your differences and been very honest about it. How do you think the Concerned Veterans for America would react to the recent strikes in Iran, taking out those nuke sites? Would that be part of the ensure the alliance commitments advance U.S. interests, rethinking our Middle East print? I hope they're not good. They're heading back to Whiteman Air Force Base, thank goodness. But how would they view that? How would they look at that incident?
So that's
was it favorable?
That's a very good question. That's a heavy question, and my response to that would be that Concerned Veterans for America, the issue that we had with it was that it's the AUMFs, right? The authorization and use of military force.
Okay,
right?
And that's another one of your particulars initiatives.
Absolutely.
So
the question is we practice and we try to talk about realism and restraint, right? And realism and restraint follows a couple of different things, right? Is it vital to America's security? Is there a strategic interest that will benefit Americans, right? And is it something that we actually absolutely have to do, right?
Yeah.
And I'm boiling that down into points.
And Ryan, your organization also is against prolonged wars, prolonged
100%.
Conflicts.
Absolutely.
But something like that was a precision strike that took place.
It was.
You would say your organization would say, all right, right on with that one.
Well, I'm not going to say that, because it wasn't. If they had the nuclear weapon, right? That could be an existential threat to America.
I see what you're saying.
Right.
Okay.
So that would jeopardize America as a whole, right? So yes, to that point, if that was the case, that they were able to functionalize their nuclear capacity and be a threat to America in that situation, then.
And I think the fear was that they were pretty darn close.
Well, the problem that you
threshold.
run into with nuclear proliferation is that once a country reaches that threshold and now they're manufacturing nuclear warheads. Where is it that we stop? Do we try to do diplomacy? If that doesn't work, then what, are we going to drop nukes on them? Are we going to use conventional weapons on them? What is the protocol? I mean, right now, our attitude, government, not just our government, but almost all the governments in the world that currently, there's 9 of them that have nuclear weapons, don't want this to be a community organization. Yeah. They want it to be limited simply for the world, the planet's survival. If you give a nuclear weapon to a madman, like the Ayatollah or Adolf Hitler or Joseph Stalin or somebody like that, they have no awareness of the lethality of what that does and how that can ruin the world, because they don't look at it as an existential threat to the world. They look at it as a tool to use to threaten or destroy their enemies. And that is what Oppenheimer was so concerned about. Yeah. He wasn't concerned about the bomb. He was concerned about the man who controls the bomb. And American policy has never been a few countries having nuclear weapons, lots of them, maybe thousands of them. That's not a threat. You know what's a threat? One megalomaniac with one nuclear weapon. That's it. That's the scary scenario. Absolutely. And that's why the United States government made the collective decision that we needed to take out Fordo and Natanz and Isfahan facilities simply because they were an existential threat. If they weren't, you don't enrich nuclear material from 60% to 90% for peaceful purposes. No, anybody who tells you that are looking at you, they're looking at a mirror, because that's not reality.
And Brian, and that was the decision that the president was faced with. And the thing I like about your organization is you're willing to stand up in disagreement on a number of these issues. And we do need that voice out there. Otherwise,
restraint.
We don't watch ourselves. We'll be going down old Primrose Path.
And and after all is said and done, right? Like, our message was to, okay, we did this. Now let's bring our troops home. Because we still have, I want to say 30,000-ish troops over, or 3,000, 3,000 troops over in the area that are just there for what, essentially? They're
You're talking about the Middle East?
In the Middle East,
Oh, no, it's something like 40-some thousand.
Okay, that's what I want to say.
I mean, you're talking about naval, marine, and U.S. military forces as well as air forces? Yeah, it's around 40,000.
So, yeah.
And matter of fact, that's what we call an in-theater number. If we're talking about near theater, like in the Mediterranean, in Europe, which have mission assignments for that area, you're probably talking closer to 200,000. So, they have commitments to the Middle East. So we actually now have a Patriot missile battery, as well as a THAAD battery inside Israel. We've never had troops in Israel before. Only thing that we ever had for military was R&R in Israel and Haifa, but we never actually had military a station in Israel, and now we do for their protection, for their defense.
And am I wrong in saying that Israel wants us and welcomes us to be there?
Well, yeah. I mean, they don't want us to be their guarantor of their safety, but they want us to be there as an ally, just like we have all of our other allies.
Absolutely.
They don't want an occupation force. What they want is, if there's a need, a genuine need, then they want us to have military forces that can be readily available if the time or the occurrence.
And the compliment what Ricky's saying is, I think the current President Trump, he doesn't want us to take lead on other people's problems.
And that's a big thing.
But he wants to let them know that we'll be there. But they're going to have to take lead. And I'm going to reference now to our NATO buddies.
Yeah.
One of your initiatives was to ensure that the alliance commitments advance U.S. interests. And one area I looked at right here, you want to encourage our European allies that underinvest in defense and depend on the United States to increase. Now, we have to be pretty happy if we can get them from, 3% or a 5% or whatever commitment in that. So how does concerned veterans look at that? That's got to be, again, I'm reading your initiatives, and right now we're pretty much right on, except for a few caveats.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where are you going?
Yeah, so that's the truth, right? So it goes back to that strategic interest for America, right? And so if we are dumping trillions of dollars into the Middle East when they are not necessarily a real potential threat to us, but they could be a threat to our European allies, why are we forking out the majority of that funding?
Well, I think the president feels exactly the same way as you do.
Yes.
He does. He feels that the Europeans and the European area of responsibility should be predominantly taken care of by Europeans, and the United States will be there to backstop them if they need the assistance or they need the material to support them. But we shouldn't be, as is in the past 40, 50 years, we've been the frontline force.
Exactly.
The only reason that there's military forces still in Europe is a tripline force.
Yeah.
It forces us to be there if the balloon ever went up. And because we did win the Cold War, I think we're losing the warm war because the Russian nation has decided under its current president that it wants to be expansionist once again and go back to the old supremacy of the Soviet Union over the minions of the Eastern Europeans and its old satellite countries that were part of the USSR, which doesn't exist anymore. But he wants to remake it in his image for a supranational Russian empire. And
no, thank you.
Enough said. I'm off my pedestal.
Yeah, but you know what, Ryan? And let's just also talk about, I think what we're getting at here is another initiative you have is smart, sustainable, and strategy-focused DoD spending. I think we're hinting at that.
Absolutely.
You want to get
100%.
rid of all the waste that's taken place, the overspending.
Yes.
And I think you're seeing where we're, under this administration at least, it looks like we're strides are being made.
Indeed.
Whereas that we're trying to control that spending and focus it. But could you expound a little bit more? You said the greatest threat to America's safety, future prosperity is our mounting debt. Of course, what was passed today could cause a little problem, but what's your thoughts on that?
Okay, so even with, I looked at the debt of past presidents, right? And if you look at from Reagan up to now, this 3.7 trillion that we're looking at with the ABBA, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, in comparison to other presidents, other than Reagan and Clinton, that is less than what other presidents have added to our national debt. So there's that, right? And to the point that you were making, George, of ensuring that we're protecting our national interest in the form of our national debt, if we are giving and dumping money into the Middle East, if we're giving monies to Ukraine, right? We are not secure as a nation now, right?
Okay.
The weaponry that we gave to Ukraine depleted our stockpile, and we cannot generate that. We cannot build that back fast enough in comparison to how much we have given out to.
So then concern
You're talking about sustainability is what you're talking about.
Sustainability, absolutely, for both economy and our military.
So then what you're talking about is, again, we're going right down this road right now. I hope Concerned Veterans for America, certainly they picked up on it based on where we're going with your initiatives. America First policy.
So strategic policy for
America First. Okay.
We got to take care of our national interests
Well, and
before
part of that,
anything else.
Ryan, please give me some comment on this. You said protect the conditions of our prosperity. Secure America's economic future. Can you expound a little bit on that? It's another one of your initiatives, and I got about 10 of them here, and you're going right through.
We have an abundance of natural resources within the continental and Alaska, right? Mm-hmm. And we are still reliant on other countries for our energy needs, right? That goes with our national security. That goes with our economic security, right? If we can tap into those resources that we have, then that will bolster our economy as well as our national security also. And it makes us less reliant on nations that we may not necessarily align with or that don't have America's best interests at heart.
Well, most people don't realize when you talk about energy for energy's sake, 90%, and that I could be underestimating this, but 90% of the oil and natural gas that comes off of the North Slope of Alaska.
Okay.
Do you know where that goes?
No.
It doesn't go to the West Coast. It doesn't go to the United States. It goes to Japan, Taiwan, and Australia and Asia. That's where it goes. It doesn't go to us. It goes to help our allies in Asia. It doesn't come to the United States to support. 10% does, because by law they have to send some to the United States, and stays some a little bit stays in Alaska. But 90% of it goes to our foreign allies in Asia, and that's where it goes. People don't realize that, but that's just a fact.
That doesn't make sense.
Well, you know, Ryan, being straight up, we know one another.
Yeah.
And we like to ask the questions, and we're getting the answers. And the audience out there wants straight shooters.
Absolutely.
Now, when leading up to the election, the recent election, the Concerned Veterans for America was not really nuts about supporting President Trump.
So, okay, I need to make a very important distinction.
No,
right?
Please talk.
Because we have our different legal entities, right? We have our C3 status, our 501c3, right, which is our community building education base, right?
Yeah.
Then we have our 501c4, which is the hat that I usually wear most of the time.
And what is that?
The 501c4?
Yeah.
That is a essentially a lobbyist group, right? So with the 501c3 is a foundational, right, group that just is essentially kind of like a charity, right? The 501c4, I put on my veteran lobbyist hat, and I'm able to approach all of my lawmakers at any point, right? And also lobby for different policies.
Hello. All right, hit the deck. Okay.
And then,
So you lobbied very hard because we heard you get punched
absolutely,
right now.
yes.
So.
And then, and don't let me forget about VOF, right? Veterans on the Hill. So we'll come back to that.
Oh, no. You got more initiatives. We're just getting warmed.
Absolutely. So with the C4, we do the policy things, right? And then what you're referring to is when we decide as an action, all right, our 527, right, legal capacity. I take off my C4 hat, I put on my 527 hat, and then we will support a policy champion.
Yeah, when you said C4, you scared me a little bit there. I think you know what I'm saying?
I thought I was waiting for that.
So in other words, you take that hat off. Now you can advocate for or against policy, either the state level or federal level, right?
As a C4, yes.
Oh, I got you, partner.
Is that where Pete was working when he was your CEO on the C4?
Yes. So we have when we move from foundation to C4, right? It just depends on what it is that we're like trying to achieve, right? With whatever it is that we're doing, right? So Hegseth might have worn a C3 hat, he might have worn a C4 hat, or he might have worn the 527 hat, right?
Okay.
So and that's the same with our new executive director, right? And all across the board with C.
And his name is?
John Vick. John Vick is an incredible individual.
Yeah, I looked at your profile, but we had one of your executives.
Burn.
He was on about 8 months ago on our show.
Yes, sir.
And
yes, sir.
he called in.
Yeah.
Which we're going to get some of them call-ins once we get up and rolling full time here.
Let's do it. They'd love it.
So build America's strength through robust growth. It's looking pretty good right now.
You know,
the unemployment rate went down a little bit. Stock market's going up. Ricky's making so much money. I won't have to pay for dinner anymore.
Right.
You know,
It'll be a thank you for the stock market. Yeah.
So are we going to Caesars or? And so with that, right? They're all. Everything's intertwined, right? We're in a global economy. We're in a day and age where there isn't just one thing, right? And everything kind of interacts and works off of each other. So like that, the robust growth, the energy security, the foreign policy, foreign national security, it's all tied together, right? And so for that robust growth, we need to invest in America. And it's been a while since we really invested in the citizens of America, right?
Right, because we went for 20 years into this global economy where we exported and we offshored millions of
Yes.
American jobs that those people no longer had any employment. So the current president is trying to reverse that. And he's bringing it back.
Yes.
And he's telling them, if you want to do business with the United States, you have to invest in the United States and give Americans jobs to work in the United States.
100%.
But you know something I have to reference? You have a statement here, and I think we've been hitting it collectively.
Which one's that?
Well, together we can empower our fellow Americans to live their American dream. And I think that's what I think a crux of this is all about.
100%.
Okay.
So over the last few days, right, we've been advocating hard to get the One Big Beautiful Bill Act passed. And let me tell you,
Hey, buddy, you're successful.
we you know, it's a celebratory day, right? The
Yeah.
champagne was indeed popped at headquarters that we got, but you know, we didn't do it alone. We had thousands of volunteers with our sister organizations across the nation that helped us get to where we're at. It was through phone calls, through knocking on doors, through Veterans on the Hill. Last week, I had the opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. with my Concerned Veterans for America colleagues, and we took 140 direct meetings with either congressional representatives or staffers. We dropped off 400 pamphlets to strategic offices to let them know what our policy
You know what else you
priorities
could have
were.
dropped off? Ricky and I gave you 100 of our business cards. That would have been great. You
man.
dropped those off. Boy.
Let me know
have-
next.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll let
Thank-
you know. Go
Ryan,
next
I'll
year.
tell you
Yeah.
what, though, but I think you're hitting on it here. We're going to talk something about, you talk about, let's transition to our military people.
Okay,
Let's take a break.
sure.
Let's talk about modernizing the VA services to promote veteran independence. I have a little synopsis here I can read, but
Before you do that, I'd like to ask you, Ryan, a question, because you were in D.C.
Yes.
and you got to see some of the nuts and bolts of how the sausage was made. And you know, it can be challenging, to say the least. I get that.
it's about dinner time, too.
So here's my question. My question is, I hear a lot of disgruntled comments in the community, the United States community, about how this big, beautiful bill is going to take away benefits for our veterans and take benefits away from our American citizens. I don't believe that, but can you elaborate on the question about veterans? What is it that they're saying? Is it true or not true, or a fabrication, or is it an embellishment? What is it?
So no veterans are going to lose their benefits. If a veteran, that's 100%
Black and white.
black and white,
Okay.
right? So
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
There's rumors about 80,000 layoffs within the VA across the board. Is that humbug?
So mainly administrative, not the doctors and the nurses that
Gotcha.
are the front facing of the VA, right? So let me come back to that, George, and
We
finish
got plenty of
answering,
time, boss. Go
Ricky's
right ahead.
question.
You're the
So
guest.
no veterans are going to lose their benefits through the big bill. It does
Big, beautiful bill.
Big Beautiful Bill Act does,
Which you all supported.
which it does
Well, you help write the dang thing.
create more stringent work requirements. Now, something that people have stated is that veterans that are on disability or
Right,
are
right.
not able to, that may be on Medicaid or SNAP, would be losing those benefits. Now, I read a note from Congressman Amadei, one of his emails that he sends out, and in that email, he stated that no veterans that are going to school, using voc rehab, or in a training status, right, will lose those Medicaid or SNAP benefits. And again, the existing VA benefits, right, disability, pension, whatever, those are not being
Those have not
touched.
been adjusted or changed.
Yes. So I think what happens, Ricky, and you know how it goes, right? They're like, oh, there's a veteran, he's going to lose his benefits. Well, it might be because of the work requirements, right, that were issued. However, if that veteran is taking the steps that they need to, going to school, right, in training.
In other words, if they don't fall out of the program and get normally dropped off, they won't be discontinued because
Correct.
of their inactions or actions, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
And it's the same with the general populace, right? And the last few days I have been on social media, and I did a 7-day series a couple of weeks ago on different aspects of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, so that I and other individuals could understand it better. And then just this last couple of days, I did some more videos, and I came under extreme scrutiny from some individuals within the community saying,
Which community? Back
quite,
DC plus here.
here, yeah, some individuals
Here in the
within
Reno,
the Reno
Sparks area. Okay.
Yes. And
What was their peeve, Ryan? You know,
Well, maybe it's just a question. Maybe they genuinely want to know, right?
no, they were peeved.
They were peeved.
Yep.
And they were peeved. Why were they peeved?
Because they feel that millions of Americans are going to lose their Medicaid and SNAP benefits and die.
And the reason that is because the Democratic Party is putting that propaganda out?
that's right.
That is the message that people are hearing, yes.
I heard it from the minority leader's mouth. He flat said that in the well of the U.S. House of Representatives. I just watched it today.
That's right.
And
I mean, literally said that because of these Medicare. And by the way, you know what a cut is in the U.S. government? It's a lack of a certain amount of increase. It's not that when we think cut, you get less. Oh no, it's just that they're going to get, instead of getting 5% more, they're going to get 2.5% more. In other words, what they consider a cut is they're going to get less of an increase than they thought they were going to get. They're not going to get less money. They're just going to get less of more money.
But you know what's scaring them also? We're going back to the best. We keep the best, a merit system. And a lot of people
but the people
arguing
who are,
about that.
But the people who originally, and if you read the intent of Medicare, or you read the bill, you read the actual act, it's for people who are unwed mothers and children and disabled and elderly and all those. None of those people are going to lose their benefits. None of them. It only has to do with 50% of the people who became, because of Obamacare, got eligible because Obamacare took away Clinton's work ethic requirements, and all that this new bill does is reinstate what Bill Clinton put in the Welfare Act back in the 1990s.
Work requirements.
It's a work requirement. That's all it is. It's saying if you're going to get Medicare benefits and you don't have any disabilities, you're not going to school, you're just sitting there getting these benefits and doing absolutely nothing, and you're sitting on your duff, you have to work at least 20 hours a week. That's not even full time.
Well, the big cut's going to be on the Medicaid, because we know there are so many people out there sucking in the system, taking the money, and a lot of illegals in this country are eating up that money.
Well, what happened is that they cut I understand that the loopholes that the states were using to collect federal money was they were putting all of these illegal immigrants on the Medicaid rolls through their state organizations and saying, well, it's a state-funded program, but we're going to charge the federal government for the entire amount.
Yeah.
And it was a scam.
yeah.
And let's go back to our veterans. You said in here, in your initiative on modernize the VA system, promote veteran independence, remove the artificial barriers that face our veterans. What are you talking about, these artificial barriers?
That's a good question.
Absolutely. So when a veteran goes into the VA, right, and a decision is made to treat them for whatever it is that they need to get treated for, there are 20 layers of bureaucracy, right? 20 levels of approval, right? So these artificial barriers, right, that a veteran has to go through to get what it is that they need.
Because
done.
they need a voluntary service officer just to get them through the process.
A lot of times, yeah. The bureau, well, that and something as simple as, like, for example, community care, right?
Or the proper forms.
Exactly, yes. And there's the proper forms, too.
Well, it's
right?
just the bureaucracy. The forms turn off the veterans. I mean, everywhere I turn, I have to fill out paperwork. So you talked about an effort to streamline all of this, and please continue.
And so with the community care program, the Veterans Access Act, which is what we're pushing for now, right? We got a big win with the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, and we are still fighting for the Veterans Access Act, which used to be, well, it started in 2014 with the community care program that Obama initiated. Trump expanded on it in 2017. Biden ended it, which means nothing really happened. And then now we have the opportunity again with this administration to complete the mission with the Veterans Access Act. And what that will do is my favorite part of it is the pilot program for behavioral health. And that will truly remove barriers for veterans' behavioral health care. So if I am suffering from mental behavioral health issues, right, under the Veterans Access Act.
Suicide prevention.
Suicide, right, if I'm having suicidal ideologies, if I have an issue with substance use disorder, whatever it might be, one of those, right, then the Veterans Access Act would allow me to go to a provider outside of the VA without the VA having to approve me going to that provider. Because
Ryan, continue. Go.
So when a person is ready for change, when a person says, I need help, they need help now. Those artificial barriers that are within the VA, the referral process for a veteran to get the care that they need in the community, or just getting an appointment for the issues that are facing them that they're ready to address that day, are those barriers. And the Veterans Access Act will literally save lives for veterans.
Speaking of saving lives, Ricky
Yes.
and I hit this every week. We hit this every week. Did the issue of suicide come up at all in your discussions back?
Off Veterans on the Hill? Absolutely, 100%. I talked about this.
What can you tell us?
The big question is, does a big, beautiful bill actually address any of those issues?
Not to my knowledge directly, right? So the Veterans Access Act is specifically for those veterans. And we're hoping that it can be a model of sorts, right, for the healthcare system in general, right? Put control and the power in individuals' hands and not a top-down solution.
You mean a template for access for our veterans at the ground level and not at the bureaucratic level?
Correct. Yes, sir.
But still, I think you would agree, Concerned Veterans for America, every organization we bring in here, we focus on veteran suicide and prevention. There are 22 a day, one a day is too many. But the 988-1, that get that counselor on there to help. Let me ask you a personal question.
Yeah.
Have you been approached by a veteran? Have you a situation where you intervened to some extent? I know I have at least once, twice. Ricky probably has too, I know. Where you gave advice to a veteran that you felt as though had PTSD, had issues. You can't see PTSD. You can see physical. But have you had any engagement with anyone? Now, I mean, can I be personal with you?
Yeah, of course.
You had issues when you got out of the Marine Corps, did you not?
Oh, I was a raging alcoholic, 100%.
And I didn't want to force that at you. I wanted to lead into it and allow you to say.
And so I'll go to your second statement first, right? I just have about 10 and a half years, just over 10 years in sobriety. I got sober in 2015, January 21st of 2015 was the last time I had a drink, right? And through my sobriety, I have been able to talk with, guide, mentor, be there for other veterans and just other people as well, right, that are struggling with behavioral mental health issues, right? Alcoholism, suicidal thoughts and everything. So when you ask me if I've had any interaction, yes. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I'm sure you've had colleagues come to you, and this gets back to the crux of our charter as this show. Ricky and I, we have a certain amount of expertise that we help one another with. Your expertise, any guest expertise. We can take this show and we'll talk about other issues outside the immediate, okay? Yeah. But I mean, we're a show about our veterans or for veterans, issues, their lives, our active duty, Guard, Reserve, and you know that.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, Our show is on people like yourself coming on board your organization and allowing you to express. And you know what? You want to get personal. We get a lot of people being very personal that we find reveal to us things maybe that they would not normally talk about.
Yeah, that's.
But we're here. We're a listening board, and we got people we can have contact and send you to someone to.
Absolutely.
And I know you do as well.
Absolutely.
Veterans.
Yes.
You got an issue. Empower veterans with access to quality and timely health care. Protect and expand veterans' health care choices. Restore a culture of accountability at the VA. You want to expand, you've touched on that, but you want to expound a little bit more?
Sure. Absolutely. So accountability at the VA, right? So I know a guy.
There's a big subject, John.
Yes, sir. I know a guy at the Reno Vet Center, and when he sees me, he's like, "Oh, the enemy, the enemy." He's like, "No, I'm just kidding, man." And so, but because we are somewhat of a VA watchdog, right? We are an organization that will hold their feet to the fire to do better. We are an organization that will call out the failures that they do, and one of the ways that we do that is through. So part of that accountability is addressed within the Veterans Access Act. And what that means is it will codify the access standards of care for community care. And what that means is if a veteran is put on a wait list, then the VA cannot manipulate that wait time to make it look like that veteran has not been waiting as long. So if I go into the VA and I say, "Hey, I need an appointment for this," and they're like, "Okay, cool. We'll get you in 19 days." 17 days goes by, they call me, and then all of a sudden they postpone my appointment.
They reschedule you.
And they reschedule me, and they reset the clock.
No, I'm going through that right now. I had 4 or 5 major appointments, and right a week or 5 days before, I get a notification from the VA saying you've been canceled and you need to reschedule because they don't have to give an exam. They don't have to give a reason. They just say you've been canceled and therefore you have to reschedule. And I never had that done before, but that's in the last 6 months. That's pretty normal now. I'm getting an appointment on the 16th of July. It's canceled. Now it's the 7th of August. That gets canceled. Now it's going to be the 15th, but now it's going to be a video conference call instead of seeing an actual doctor.
That doesn't make any sense either. And so they should be offering you community care because they're not able to see you within, here, I got this little handy thing. Yeah. Right. So if the wait time is more than 20 days for primary care, mental health, and non-institutional extended care services from the date of request, or 28 days for specialty care from the date of request.
These are all specialty care.
Then they are supposed to refer you to community care. Now, accountability is about making sure that the VA is actually letting you know about this other option that is available to you. So they should have let you know, say, "Hey, we haven't been able to get you in, but if we can put you out into the community to renowned Dr. Bob, whoever," right? And they don't, a lot of times, unfortunately, they don't do that. So we want to hold them accountable.
If you folks out there have been listening for the last hour, Major Ricky Harold, U.S. Army retired. I'm Lieutenant Colonel George Fleck, U.S. Air Force retired. We have with us a Marine, Ryan Gerchman. He is the Community Engagement Director for Concerned Veterans for America, Northern Nevada. And I'm going to tell you right now, you've just transitioned into another one of your initiatives. Commitment to rigorous VA oversight and improve access and quality of care. And you have said, your organization has said, you've alluded to it already, there's been a systematic perceived failure on behalf. Ricky's brought up already the wait times. I've had them, and you're working it, and you've already gone into something that I wanted to expound on more. The VA Mission Act. The VA Mission Act. Okay? You got that?
VA Mission
Go into that VA Mission Act because it's sitting right there in front of you, and there's a lot of goodies in that one right there.
So the VA Mission Act is actually now the Veterans Access Act, right? So the Veterans...
Okay, thank you very much.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the Mission Act is just That was passed in 2017. And then after 2017, it just kind of went stagnant. And the VA, the issue with it is that it's not codified. So the VA is able to manipulate the program so that they don't have to abide by it. What the Veterans Access Act does is makes it so that the VA can no longer skirt the system.
It's called manipulation.
Manipulate it. Yep, I was trying to be nice.
So in other words, they're going to offer you an alternative.
That's what they're supposed to do.
Okay.
The community care and through the Mission Act.
Yeah, I just got a phone call. I have x-rays coming up next month. And they asked me, do I want to go to the VA hospital or do I want to go to a contracted private doctor?
Absolutely.
Wow. Okay, so anything more on the Mission Act? I mean, it changed to what? The accessibility? What do you call it?
The Veterans Access Act.
Access Act.
Yeah. And, you know, if some of the listeners that are out there, right, if they want to take action and support the Veterans Access Act so that our veterans are able to get timely care, choice, and options, then they can go to cv4a.org and take action today.
And one of your caveats here is tell Washington what you think.
Absolutely. So they'll be able to go on our website and they can sign a petition, and that petition, they will be able to sign a letter, and that letter will get sent to their elected representative. And you can do it as many times as you want. If you want to do it once a day, every day, there's people that call congressional offices every day complaining about the same thing. So they can sign these letters, and we will send them out on their behalf every day of the week.
You know, I bet we've been going for an hour, haven't we?
Over an hour.
About 4 minutes still.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So
nice.
we got 5 minutes left.
Okay.
See, when you're having fun,
Hey,
right?
this is great. I love it. It's great. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, make your government more efficient and accountable. I think that's what we need to do. Fix veterans' health care. We worked on that. I'll tell you what. Did we do justice today to concerned Veterans for America?
I would say you did. Thank you, George.
I covered about 8. Ricky and I, we got about 8 of your initiatives.
I love it. It's always a pleasure coming on the show with you too.
Well, we want to have you back again, my friend.
I'll be back.
Spread the word. Now, see, the thing I like about this, and Ricky, you and I would agree. Next week, we're going to have, Grady, the Matthew Axelson Foundation. Corky and Donna Axelson. You remember the Navy SEAL from the Lone Survivor movie?
Okay.
And also, there were 3 of them out of 4 that were killed, Navy SEALs, in the Afghan mountains. One lived, Marcus Luttrell.
Marcus Luttrell. Yeah.
And they're going to come on, and you see what's going to happen. It's going to be a different approach 100%. Dealing with them.
Yeah.
And this is like taking a college course every week.
I love it.
And I think our audience out there, if they listen long enough, they're going to say, man, them guys ain't just talking about, NATO and all that stuff. Them guys are talking about the intimate aspect of a soldier. And we've had them on, soldiers tell their stories. And you know what? You told them about your story, too.
Yeah. And, I'm just blessed and I'm fortunate to be here with you guys today. And I just want to say thank you again. And remind our audience to check out the website. They can volunteer. They can take action. They can learn more about us at cv4a.org. And if you're in Susanville on July 12th, I'll be at the Firehouse Grill. So come on out if you're in Susanville. I'll have some amazing food.
And you want to give them your phone number too?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. My number, if anyone needs to reach out to me directly, is 775-531-0688. And you can also find me on the Action Center at cv4a.org.
You want to come back again?
Heck yeah.
Okay, man, we're going to have you lined up. I want to thank Grady for helping us out here.
He's our man.
Wonderful. Ricky, you always have something you want to say before we cut out.
Yeah, I always want to say thank you to our veterans and thank you to our military active duty because they're serving us today, and we appreciate what they do every day.
Hey, wait a minute. What's that music in the background? Air Force, love it. Okay, God bless all our service members. As Ricky said, freedom's never been free. Someone had to pay for it in the past. They continue to do it today. And again, I just want to say We will be back next week, and we're going to have the Axelson family with us.
Fantastic.
And it's going to be a different type of show, but it's going to be insightful, informative, and I think a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Okay. God bless America.
Thank you.
Here they come. Off they go. Should I swear? Hell of a roar.